Vav Amid Beis.
He told me you should give me a matas.
Lamed Vav Amid Beis. Ein Oiden Es Halulav. Very interesting mission here. We're starting now how you bind the lulav. Next, we'll talk about how you shake the lulav once it's bound.
And so we're done with Esrog.
We're really done with Esrog. But
bring the Esrog on the road.
But the boy side, this we have to see.
Take it home.
This
smells good, by the way.
What are the defay?
No, it would be more like this.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah.
It would be like this type of thing, but much more pronounced.
I thought the Afidafi was literal separate pieces.
No, it was mamish like you made in strips.
I see that on certain stories.
So it's not even have it, but it's a very pronounced.
Yeah.
Okay, Rabbi Sai, we have so much to talk about, but we have to get some Gemara done, Rabbi Sai. Let's jump into the Gemara.
Yehuda's on FaceTime, right?
Oh, Yehuda's right here. Says the Gemara. We ready to start?
Yeah.
Says the Gemara. Ein oiden es lulav ela b'minoi. You don't buy the lulav ela b'minoi.
It's almost been as well. This one.
Only ela b'minoi.
I know. Firm's over.
Ein oiden es lulav. You don't bind the lulav ela b'minoi, only with its own type, its own kind. So ein oiden es lulav ela b'minoi, only with its own kind. Divi Rabbi Yehuda. That's the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Divi Rabbi Yehuda. That's the words of Rabbi Yehuda, that you only bind the lulav with its own kind. Rameir says, I'm gonna read the Lashon. I'm read the way Rashi had it. Afilu b'chut shel meshicha. Afilu b'chut shel meshicha. Chut shel meshicha says, this is Rameir, even with a thread of linen, a linen thread. So Rameir is arguing on Rabbi Yehuda, and he's saying the Mishnah is saying the lulav doesn't have to be bound with using one of the arba minim. You could bind the lulav even if you have a whole different linen threads.
Thanks for coming.
Omer Rameir. Rameir says, I wrote the words on top of the words Omer Rameir. I have a raya. Rameir now says Omer Rameir. Rameir says, I have a raya.
Rameir's not arguing?
Rameir did argue that you can use anything. You can bind the lulav with anything. So Omer Rameir. Rameir says, I have a raya. I wrote on top of the words Omer Rameir, I have a raya. Maisa, there was a story. Ba'anshe Yerushalayim, with the people of Yerushalayim. Shahayu oigden es lulavehen. They would bind the lulav bigimoniyos shazav, with golden threads.
Whoa.
So I wrote exclamation
There's
point.
a question on review though.
It's like a question or an exclamation point.
Question,
Because
exclamation point,
Rameir is bringing a raya. I have a raya that you can bind the lulav with anything. What? Choshev Mashiach is a linen thread. He was arguing, saying you don't have to bind it with its own kind, meaning the dalim minim. Rather, you can bind it, but even.
When he says with anything, does that mean with anything that's not a fruit or
Yeah,
or
anything. Yeah, you can take any.
No,
Raya-
meaning
the raya
I understand
is gold.
plastic. I understand the zip tie, but
Any plant.
What about a plant? Okay.
Yeah, anything. So Amrullah, they told him in response.
Review's on them.
Amrullah, I wrote on top. You write on top no raya. Or, right, Amrullah, they told him no raya. Biminoi hayu oigdin oisai milamata. Underneath, they would bind with its own type.
People would see that they wrapped it with gold.
Oh, so 1 second, just to clarify. Underneath,
Ellie uses fergana.
underneath Rabbi Sai, underneath the gold, they were really binding it with a lulav or something of that sort. And now, on top of that, the happens to be one of shir. There's two ways to learn it. Either means on the bottom of the lulav. That's the main tying. They did its min, which means they used like what we used a lulav. On top they put gold, and that's not a problem. Once you bind it with the main thing, that's not a problem.
It's still recognizable. It's still recognizable.
Or the others learn, and that's the way I said it. The way we did it is that underneath the gold they put the.
Wait, we already learned though that anything that you're binding, that's not really binding to something.
How is it recognizable?
Is not a
Exactly.
Not really
Exactly.
The bottom is.
So the bottom, exactly. So
That's machlekes. So which ones you need?
So underneath,
Mayor's answer's not gonna help.
1 second. So underneath,
What you do, Mayor?
no, you can't use anything. Anything. I'll tell you why. You're going to see right now in the Gemara. Just wait. Just wait. The Gemara will explain. We'll jump right
I'm not
into it.
saying you're wrong.
Says the Gemara.
You are.
Says the Gemara. Rabbi Sai. So right now the Mishnah word of Machlekes, Rabbi Yehuda and Rameir. Can you use any other min to tie a lulav? Do you have to use just one of the four minim? The branches or one of the four minim? Rabbi Yehuda said yes, Rabbi Meir says no. And he tried to bring a raya from the people of Yerushalayim, and the people of Yerushalayim, they responded it's not a raya. Why is it not a raya? Because underneath it, they would put the regular ties that we have, which come from the lulav branch. Says the Gemara, Amar Rava. Rava says, Afilu b'siv, we had this word before, even the ivy. Ivy, afilu b'siv, even the ivy, right? Afilu be'ikra dedikla, the bark from the trunk.
Of that tree.
Yeah, be'ikra dedikla, the bark of the date tree, of the lulav tree, yeah.
Okay, that's the same.
Right. Exactly. And I wrote on the side, ready? Saying, Afilu be'ikra dedikla, the bark from the trunk, right, date tree. And right on the side, even this is called minai. Even this is called its own kind. Right. But it's not so pashut. Right. Where you were trying to say, you may have thought that when you can use its type, maybe you have to use the branches of the lulav itself. How do you know that you can even use the bark? How do you know you can use the ivy, the things that grow off of the tree? So afilu, says the Gemara, Amar Rava, afilu b'siv, afilu b'ikra dedikla, and I wrote on the side, even that is called minoi. Okay, the Gemara, in just a few minutes, will go give a lengthy raya to what we just said. So it's not so pashut even. You'll see in a second. V'amar Rava, and Rava says, my time with Rabbi Yehuda. What's the reason for Rabbi Yehuda? My time Rabbi Yehuda, that you need its own type. My time with Rabbi Yehuda. What's the reason for Rabbi Yehuda? Question mark. My time with Rabbi Yehuda, that you need its own type.
Ooh, it's not that good.
The Gemara answers, Kesavar, Rabbi Yehuda holds.
Comma period.
Right?
Beautiful.
Lulav tzarech eged. A lulav needs to be bound. Right?
Comma.
A lulav needs to be bound. Comma. V'i maisi mina achrina. And if I use another type, v'i maisa mina achrina, if I use another material.
Hold on, which tie has to be, which tie is tzarech eged?
A lulav has to be bound.
Where?
Without getting into it, let's say the bottom
answers
one.
Rava's question.
Right. Yeah. So, but he's saying, what's wrong with Rabbi Yehuda? Why does Rabbi Yehuda require you have using? So he's saying because Rabbi Yehuda holds a lulav has to be bound. V'maisa mina achrina. Now, if I bring another type, any other material, have a chamisha mina mini period. There would be 5 types, and I wrote on top of that Baal Taisef. Let's keep that in mind. It's good to know. Have a chamisha mini. It's 5 types right next to it. Baal Taisef. We've gone through this exactly. We've had Rabbi Yehuda a few times already. Amazing. Zion, yeah, amazing. Okay, so
Is Baal Taisef Beis Ayin Lamed or Beis Lamed?
Beis Lamed.
Baal.
Beis
Baal
Lamed,
Taisef.
yeah. Okay, Rabbi Yisai, now the Gemara begins a raya. The Gemara brings a raya right now that begins from V'amar Rava, and it will go. It's in one straight piece. I mean, it goes to about 10 lines down Lamed Zayin, and this is what Rava says. V'amar Rava, mina aminallah. How do I know? Mina aminallah. How do I know? Mina aminallah. How do I know?
Still hungover, huh?
Mina aminallah. How do I know?
So they should have seen him going by his party.
Mina aminallah. How do I know? This sieve. That the ivy, the ikra dedikla, and the tree trunk, and the trunk of the tree, mina de lulvahu, is
Question mark.
considered
Forward slash.
is considered its own kind, which means I know you can use a lulav. Of course, that's its own kind. You can use a lulav. How do I know that the
Part of it. It's
right.
the same thing.
But how do I know that when I said that you have to use its own kind, it even means you can use the tree trunk? This is what we're starting right now. Maybe when it says you have to use, Rameir says you have to use its own kind.
It has to be.
I'm sorry, Rabbi Yehuda says you have to use its own kind.
It has to be a leaf of lulav.
So how do you know? You might think it might have to be a lulav tree. How do you know that even the ivy and the tree trunk is acceptable to use that to tie a lulav? It says you have. Rabbi Yehuda holds that you have to use your own min. Rabbi Yehuda holds you have to use your own min. Yeah, you don't work out today.
I did grab it. But I'm still.
Rabbi Yehuda says you have to use your own min. So the Gemara says, and the Gemara said before that Rava said its own min even means even the ivy and the tree trunk. So now Rava has to prove it. How do I know when it says its own min that it even includes other parts of the tree that aren't used in the mitzvah? I can start taking out the roots. How do I know that all that works? So this is the beginning of a long raya. So we're going to go through a lot of questions and answers till we get to the conclusion. But let's go through it now, step by step. Mina amina la the siv the ikra the dikla mina the lulvahu question mark with a dash.
Right. Seriously.
English major right here. Right here. Ready?
This raya seems a little strange.
Okay. Titania. We learned in a brisa. Rabbi say, just wait. Don't jump on me.
The question still continues.
Yeah. No. I'm sorry. This is already the answer. Okay. Yes, I wrote question mark dash, and we start the answer here, and it's a long answer. Titania.
A lot of useless information.
Titania. We learned in a brisa. Titania. We learned in a brisa.
They tried. It didn't work.
But v'sukkos. It says in the pasuk v'sukkos teishvu. Besukkos teishvu. Put that in quotes. Besukkos teishvu. Besukkos teishvu. Dash. Besukkos teishvu dash. Sukkah shall call davar. A sukkah of any plant. The reason why I'm using the words plant is because we know you can't use metal on top of your sukkah. It has to be something that grows from the ground.
Sukkah
Right.
means
Sukkah means schach. So sukkah shall call davar. Schach of any plant. Schach of any plant. You're right. Everybody said that's important to emphasize because it will come up soon. Schach of any plant. Sukkah shall call over. Schach of any plant. Okay?
But ivy is not schach.
Just wait till we get there.
Plant.
We're opening up a discussion and wait till we get there.
Opening the panel.
Plant, I just mean anything that grows from the ground. Divrei Rameir holds that when it comes to your sukkah, you can use any plant. Look at this, Rabbi Sai. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Ein sukkah neheges. Schach, ein sukkah neheges. Schach cannot be ella bedalin minim. Schach cannot be ella bedalin minim shabalolov. Schach can only be with the material of the dalin minim. Rabbi Yehuda holds that if you want to cover your sukkah, if you want to use your schach to use, has to be the dalin minim shabalolov. Put a comma. You ready for this, Rabbi Say? Vadin noisen. And I'll use a kal v'chomer. Vadin noisen, and I have a kal v'chomer.
Dash?
Yeah, vadin noisen dash. I have a kal v'chomer. Din is usually referring to kal v'chomer.
Meaning the din is like this because I have.
No, but vadin noisen is, and the kal v'chomer will prove it.
And this is shown over here.
Yeah, the vadin noisen and the kal v'chomer will prove it. You ready for this? Rabbi Say very gishmak araya. Vadin noisen and the kal v'chomer will prove it. Look at this very interesting kal v'chomer. Oh, but remember, let's keep in mind the original question. Reb Chaim Baruch. Reb Chaim Baruch. What was the original question that we're coming to answer over here?
And he brings treats.
Your leftovers here?
Everybody say, don't bring till Pesach from now.
How do we know that tree or the bark? The shul's being cleaned for Pesach.
How do we know it's considered for mina?
How do we know that that's you ready?
You don't want to touch it in general.
V'hadin noisen, and the kal v'chomer is going to prove that your sukkah has to be covered. The kal v'chomer will prove that your sukkah has to be covered with the dalaminim. Umal lulav. Here we go, Rabbi say. Let's go. 5 lines on the bottom. Umal lulav. Umal lulav, and we find by lulav she'ein noyeg that it's not practiced baleilos at night. Kibiyamim, like the day.
Basically, it's only done a day.
Right? Ma lulav she'ein noyeg baleilos kibiyamim. Lulav is not practiced at night like it is by the day.
And still.
Right? Mm-hmm. Oh. And
Dash.
still. Right? You can make a dash. And right, I like the word Reb Chaim. And still. Ein noyeg ella ba'arbas minim. And a lulav, you have to only use the 4 minim. We proved that already. Ein noyeg. and still you can only use the four minim. You have to use the four minim. Again, a sukkah, a lulav, is only used by day, not by night, only by day. And yet you have to use the four minim. Kama. Sukkah. A sukkah. Shenei heges. Baleiles kibiyamim. A sukkah is used by night and day. A sukkah is a 24-hour mitzvah. By night and by day. It's much more chomer. It's much more serious. Einay din.
That's not true.
Einay din.
Lulav is also at night. We said you can do them if you mess it up at night. So it's my mitzvah.
Einay din. Whoa, one second. Einay din. Einay din. Isn't it logical? Einay din. Isn't it logical? Right? Einay din. Isn't it logical? Shaloi tehei ella ba'arba'as minin. That it should only be.
What is the
What
connection?
does this mean?
Thank you. Makes no sense.
Einay din. Look at this. Einay din shaloi tehei ella ba'arba'as minin.
Okay.
We have something for the Dalamina.
Oh. So Rabbi Sai, I remember. I think I had this. I'm trying to remember where else I had something like this, where there's a halacha that a kal v'chomer is not bound to the same to svara so much, and a kal v'chomer can even be used to apply different halachas from one to another, and as long as we find some sort of basis, to apply a kal and a chomer, we can apply different halachas. You hear this, Rameir? We're applying as a fasting kal v'chomer. So sukkah, a kal v'chomer works this way. Sukkah, a kal v'chomer means you can find the kal v'chomer. It doesn't have to be mesorah. It's not like a gezer shava, by the way. Gezer shava has to be mesorah. Kal v'chomer is not like that. Sukkah sheneheges baleilos kibiyom, a sukkah that's used by night and by day. Einay din, isn't it logical? Shalei tehei, that it shouldn't be constructed ella ba'arba'as minin? Question mark. So, right? So that's how he proved.
I don't have the Kavachami. You say the same thing, but backwards. Lulav, they can only use four, not meaning. Sukkah, you can use anything. So Sukkah is night and day, so Lulav should also be night and day. It's the same Kavachami, just but backwards.
What he's asking is that Lulav should also be 9 days. That's what he's asking.
Why do we say
Amazing, good. You're asking great. Yaakov, that because we actually have sukkim that tell you what that lulav is only by day.
Only by day.
Yeah.
Sukkah.
Because we have sukkim that say it's by day. Yeah. And we learn from sukkim that lulav is only by day.
No, by Jews the day starts the night before.
Yeah, but what the pasuk says.
And we said that the mitzvah of Lulav starts tonight because you could mess it up at night. So it's my mitzvah.
So 1 second, just 1 second. Let's keep the flow. I want to keep just the flow of the Gemara. We started off. Rabbi say, look at this. Let's keep. What's going on here? Milchig? Is that milchig? Not milchig. Okay.
Thank you. Oh, wait, where's the knife?
Left over from Sandhouse.
Vanilla. Take it back. Vanilla's actually.
Can't take you anywhere.
Okay. Rabbi say, we ready?
My second stage shit is Yamam. Yamam is also things. That's the same thing.
You're saying good, but it's. 1 second.
It's not nice to say that.
Okay.
What's the? Could you say over the Kavachem? What's the Kavachem?
Amazing. Rabbi say, watch the flow of the Gemara. The Gemara starts off with one question. Rava says, how do I know that for your sukkah? How do I know, for your that the bark is included? Rabbi say, hold on, I'm gonna keep the focus here. 1 second. Pass the candy around the crybabies. Ready?
Knife, you need one?
Let's go.
By default, crybaby. I don't need a candy to make me a
Pass this
crybaby.
around, Rabbi say.
We have
I'm trying.
Knife for the next one.
The same way that sukkah can be not shal also lulav, which we said that they used to leave it on water. That's literally not shal it shouldn't be good.
No, 1 second. No. Hold on. 1 second. Rabbi say, no. I'm not thinking. I just want to keep. Make sure that.
You'll see it.
Rabbi say, Let's keep it. The flow of the Gemara
Yeah, what's
is
the Gavagam?
question number one.
You guys gotta get the program.
Question number one.
Sure.
The flow of the Gemara is the Gemara starts off with trying to prove one thing. You ready, Rabbi Yaakov? What are we trying to prove? That how do we know that the bark of a tree is considered as the lulav itself? So we start off by bringing a brisa that says for the sukkah we start by bringing a brisa. What does the brisa say? The brisa says that a sukkah could be any material. That's your mayor. Rabbi Huda says a sukkah has to be. This is what we need to know. Rabbi Huda says a sukkah has to be the same materials as a lulav, as a lulav. How do I know that? As a daled minim. How do I know that? I have a kal v'chaymer. A lulav which is not noyeg. It's only noyeg by day. Yet you can only have those 4 minim. The your lulav, the whole lulav, the bound lulav is you're bound to 4 minim. You can only use the 4 minim. So sukkah, which is even more chomer, it's much more machmer. Sukkah you got to do by night and by day. So do the construction of the sukkah should have to be the schach. What do you mean? The schach should have to be also the 4 minim. That's the kal v'chaymer. Is
What's
that
the
kal?
connection to the minim and
That's where Rabbi Huda learned that.
That's Rabbi Huda says I have a kal v'chaymer. Yes, I have a kal v'chaymer.
that's staying well with you.
So Amrulai, because a kal v'chaymer is not bound to those rules. That's what I'm trying to say. A kal v'chaymer could be done. What's that? A kal v'chaymer could be.
Here we go.
Yes, Lord.
Now we're in trouble.
I'm saying, you're not saying that the sukkah needs to be the 4 minutes. That's what you're talking about. Like a little
That the schach has to be made up of the 4 minim, which means you have to cover your schach with the sukkah, with the date tree, with the hadassim, with the arabot. But your sukkah's got to have the schach has to be the 4 minim exactly.
No bamboo.
Listen, and you'll see. We're going to move on with this. Gaval, the Yudah Shkech for holding in the sukkah here.
Don't speed.
Start sitting with me.
Rameir, a kal
What's
v'chaymer.
the connection? I understand.
You don't
What's
need a
the
connection in
connection?
a kal v'chaymer.
Okay, by Xer Shava you need exact connection.
Correct.
By Kal v'chaymer.
Kal v'chaymer is not bound.
Come on,
You
it's
could-
pretty wild.
No, you could find.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but
You
you
could-
can explain the rules of Kal
A
v'chaymer.
kal v'chaymer, you could find things that aren't even so much connected, as long as you have the Gemara all over.
You
Makes
know,
very
in the
interesting
car.
kal v'chaymers. Like what's a shayches? And I remember, I think it's a ritva. I think I remember seeing a ritva that says you can make a kal v'chaymer. I believe I'll help him bring it in. I saw it. I remember it's a ritva.
I'll accept it.
I'm just trying to tell you that you don't need to have such a similarity to make a kal v'chaymer even, as long as you find. Says the Gemara. Rabbi, are we holding? You're holding now.
Inside her trunk.
So I don't know how much bigger that thing could have been. Amrulai.
Oh, it's Mayor's? Jeez, almost the size of...
Amrulai.
Wow. Really?
With 2 hands. The one
1 second, hold on, Rabbi. So let's push. Amrulai. They told Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda brought this, right?
You gotta finish the paragraph.
Rabbi Yehuda, Amrulai. No, Rabbi Yehuda brought the right. Rabbi Yehuda says you have to use a 4 minim.
yeah.
So Amrulai, they told Rabbi Yehuda, what type of kal v'chaymer is this? Look what he says. Kol din, every kal v'chaymer. Sha'ata don tchilosai lahachmir. That you do it initially for a chumrah, right? That's what a kal v'chaymer is done. That you do it for a stringency. A kal v'chaymer is you're trying to apply a stringency, make something more chomer, right? You're trying to make something more chomer. That's what kal v'chaymer does. Right. If chomer A applies over here, certainly that chomer will apply there. So kol din, every kal v'chaymer, sha'ata don tchilosai, that you initially do it lahachmer for a stringency. You got to get this claw. You ready? You have it. Called in every kal v'chaymer sha'ata don tchilosai, that you do it initially lahachmer for a stringency. V'soifai, but at the end lahakel, you'll bring to a leniency. Lahakel means you'll come to be lenient. Meaning you think you're going to bring a chumrah, but you can actually bring a kula from this. Dash einoidin is not a good kal v'chaymer. Kama. Because why not?
Oh, it's really
Now,
dash.
now write the words why. Right, it's dash really. Write the words why. You can write on top of the next page or at the end of the last page. Why? Write the words why, because that will help the flow. Look at this. Why? Loi motza arbos minim. If you don't find the 4 minim for the schach, write that. If you don't find the 4 minim for the schach, Yehei yoshev batel. You'll be sitting idly without a sukkah. Kama. You got it? Loimotza arbas minim. If you don't find the 4 minim for the, you just told me right now you have a couple chaimer that your sukkah has to be covered with
Because Araminim.
Daraminim. Oh, that's a stringency. What type of stringency is that? You're going to make people won't be able to do the mitzvah. Let's say living in a place where you don't have access to the 4 minim. So, you have 1 lulav, right? There were times that 1 lulav.
Like
What do you do?
It's
The whole
like
time.
them get
Los
need
Angeles,
5
the
Arabas.
rain over there.
Oh,
Hadassah,
Gavaldik!
sorry.
So you should have Gavaldik!
Hadassah.
Rabbi Sir Meir said you should sue something else that we just had a few weeks ago. Ooh, that's a stringency that you're gonna make them need the perfect Arabas that's gonna come to not gonna have the mitzvah. So loy matzah boss minim. You won't find the dalaminim. Hey yoshev batel. You'll be sitting idle without a sukkah. What type of chumrah is that?
Can't use the ring of finesse.
Can you read me
Still, Chorma just may not be able to do it. though.
I don't have the question.
The question was, a stringency means when a Kal V'Chaimer he normally tries to make something stringent. We'll take a stringency that we find in A and say if it applies to A, certainly it'll apply to B.
No.
But over here, you're going to make it that just like a lulav needs to be dalaminim, so your sukkah needs to be dalaminim. So what's going to happen if it comes sukkahs, and in this city where we have no access to lulav, no access to adas and rafas, we only have 1 set dalaminim, no one will have a sukkah. The whole town will be sitting without a sukkah. They won't do the mitzvah.
It's not a
you were saying
heter. It's not a
because
heter.
everything else.
It's Yaakov. First of all, you can use Yaakov said before as a question, but also it's not a het. It's not being mako. Just you're screwed.
Well,
It's mako. You're not utter. You're still mechayev. You're just not gonna do it.
It's still
no, but
Still chumrah. You're just not able to do it.
Right.
so a kula means is that you're
Kula
trying
means
to
that
make
you're
it. You're trying to strengthen the mitzvah. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to strengthen the mitzvah. You're trying to make it that you have to for this mitzvah. You need to be very particular. You're going to come out in a way that no one's going to be able to do the mitzvah. You're going to have time and you're going to take away the mitzvah from people. This is not a couple
Way. It's just this that
It may not
specific
be possible.
situation.
It may not
So
be
you're not
possible.
possible.
You're basically taking away people's ability to do the mitzvah. So you're saying
So
that's not something.
Araminim in general, we should have a problem with.
No, because the Torah says you have
Because
to
if
use
you don't have
those.
Araminim, then you
No.
can't have a mitzvah.
No, the Torah
If
says
you have something else.
Oh no, because the Torah says you have to use this. Here you want to use a kavah chaymer that you're going to come and mess, and everyone's going to be messed up now. Moshe used wall nula for 3 years. He used to hang it up, preserve it, just last me a year.
Wait, your nephew?
Feinstein used the same lulav?
In Russia or
In
Germany.
Shas al-Chakra.
Or Lower East Side when they were, part
So
of
a
the
boy side, one more line.
poor.
You ready? You ready for this, Rabbi Say? He'll be sitting idle or a kama. That's the first response. That's response number 1. Oh, and now by the word about Torah on the next line, write the word also. Also,
And
you know what? I'm going to stop here. Because it's
Chazar.
I want to do chazar right. We did a whole